Welcome to the Southern Idaho Fishing Report. Whether you are planning just a couple of hours or a full weekend of fishing, this is your one-stop place for all the information you need to plan your trip. It's all right here, from weather forecasts and reservoir levels to the latest stocking reports and expert advice. And now, the host of the Southern Idaho Fishing Report, Jeff Cullers.
All right. Welcome. Busy show for you this week. Of course, Jordan Rodriguez from Tightlines 208, Kyle Sandy from the Deadwood Outfitters. We also have Martin Koenig from Idaho Fish and Game talking about your chance to put input in to upcoming fishing rules for different regions. My forecast for the weekend, your regional updates, a little bit about a boat I bought. So here we go. It's a Southern Idaho Fishing Report for August 6, 2021. All right, let's start out east in the Magic Valley. Sunset will be around 8:52 p.m. We're getting further and further away from that 9 o'clock sunset. Friday, August 6th, 78 degrees for the high, 57 degrees for the low. It will be mostly sunny. There will be some wind, an 8% chance of rain with a west-northwest 21 mile an hour wind. Saturday the 7th, 88 degrees for your high, 62 degrees for your low, sunny all day, no chance of rain with a west-northwest 10 mile an hour wind. On Sunday the 8th, 85 degrees for the high, 52 degrees for the low, mostly sunny. 11% chance of rain with a west-northwest 16 mile an hour wind. Let's look at those reservoir levels and boat ramps. It is not pretty, my friends. American Falls 15% full with an elevation of 4318. Only the west side boat ramp is open, but barely. Lake Walcott actually gained some elevation, 97% full with an elevation of 4245. The boat ramp is open. Littlewood, 2% full. That is low. An elevation of 5147. The Littlewood boat ramp is closed. The only stocking report I saw in the Magic Valley was Lake Cleveland, Little Lake southeast of Twin Falls. 5,000 rainbow trout are going to be stocked in there. There were no fishing tournaments reported for the Magic Valley. Okay, joining us as he does each and every week is Jordan Rodriguez, fishing columnist, owner and creator of Tightlines 208. Jordan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Jeff. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate you being here each and every week. What is that hot tip of the week?
Yeah, so this week I'm going to talk about something I'm going to be writing about here coming up, and it's using a net.
Oh.
So obviously lots of different kinds of nets. In my classes and things, people often ask, do I need one? What kind of net do I need? And there's just not a great understanding of the right way to net fish. I've seen it done wrong a lot more times than I see it done right. So just some basics on that. For most of your average fish here in the region, whether it's, bass or trout, catfish, maybe some large panfish might require a net on occasion. Just kind of your standard size, medium size net will get the job done. I do recommend the ones that have like a rubber netting as opposed to kind of that thinner cord or twine. I'm not sure exactly what you classify it as, but that thicker rubber netting is a lot easier to work with. Your hooks and things and your rigs won't get spun up in there, even if the fish is thrashing around. Also a little bit easier on the fish, not so likely to get twisted up in the fins or the gill plates or the teeth and things of that nature. So I do like that rubber netting for easier catch and release, and also catch and release on your lures and things. And then as far as the netting itself goes, the big don'ts, which I see so many people do, you don't want to have that net in the water until you're actually in the act of netting the fish. Some people put it in there, and they're kind of waiting for the fish to come. You're doing two things there. One is the fish will see it and instinctively want to swim away from whatever that is. And two is you're having resistance pushing against you as you go to lunge and make that scoop with the net. You have all that water filling up the net and creating resistance. So you're going to be slower. And I've seen a lot of fish escape as a result of things like that. What you want to do is keep the net out of the water at the ready And when that fish comes to the surface, then it's your job to scoop and stab in kind of one smooth motion, if you will, rather than having it, chase the fish around. And then the other big thing, which I guess is maybe a little bit counterintuitive, but I see it all the time, is you want to net the fish head first.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and the reason being is fish don't swim very well in reverse. So if you get them head first and they are, spooked or excited by seeing that net, they're actually going to swim further into it. At least 9 times out of 10, they will just swim into the net. They're not able to, slam on the reverse and go backwards out of there in a fast enough fashion to get away. So head first is always the way to go. If you go tail first, they will feel that or see that, feel it with their lateral line, and then they have a free path to swim away from the net, out of the net. We want them swimming into the net. And then the last word on nets is, just to make sure that you have the right tool for the job. If you have a higher platform boat, you may want one with a longer handle or an extendable handle. And my recommendation is to, always use that net on a big fish. It's a small, simple thing we can do to avoid, that last second heartbreak of losing a large fish right at the boat or right at the shoreline. So large bass, large trout. I don't see a lot of netting done on panfish, but I will say I netted a state record crappie for a friend of mine last summer. And had we not netted that fish, it would have gotten away because it was not hooked. It was just hooked barely by a very thin membrane on that crappie mouth. And so if we went to, lift that fish onto shore by the line, almost surely that hook would have ripped out. So on rare occasion, that state record size crappie or perch, you may want to go ahead and scoop. And then on the large species, if you're going after something really big like a Chinook salmon, a tiger muskie, a flathead catfish, some of the really big bruiser species that we have, you would want to upsize your net to something really large because your standard size net is probably not going to get the job done. And you're gonna be left with too much fish and not enough net.
Yeah, it's funny. We have several types of nets as well in our inventory, but I want to circle back to this because I guess this is one of those things, right, that you've always heard. At least on my part, growing up, like you always want to bring the net in from the backside because you don't want to spook the fish. But as you're saying the words, I'm thinking, okay, well, I've never seen a fish swim backwards, so that makes total sense about actually bringing the net in from the front, because if they're going to get spooked, then they're going to swim into it more than likely. So it's a very interesting concept, and I think we'll try it the next time my wife and I are out on our boat fishing.
Yeah, it is. It's counterintuitive, and people think, you got to sneak up from behind them. But a big part of that is, again, having the net out of the water to begin with, because then they won't necessarily be spooked of it. And just that one, smooth scooping, stabbing motion, they don't really have enough time to react to that. And one last thing I'll say on the species, this is not a large species per se, but I always, always, always recommend netting the kokanee salmon, which seems silly because, these are averaging probably 10 to 14 inches, but they have such a weird soft mouth, and the nature of trolling, you don't really get that really hard, firm hook set like you do by hand fishing.
Right.
So I've seen, way too many times kokanees escape at the boat. And usually when you're trolling and doing the kokanee game, the goal is to get a nice stringer of fish to take home and, obviously a delicious species. So you don't want to be losing out on those opportunities. Net the kokanee. I know they're not big, but, a lot of times they're not going to survive that flip into the boat without coming loose and being a heartbreak.
Yeah, we had to up our net game a few years ago. We were fishing, and lost a monster fish that my wife had caught because we didn't have a big enough net. We had just little trout hand net, and it wasn't big enough to bring it in. So we definitely upped our net game a few years ago and got one that was big enough to handle the type of fish we were going after. Jordan, we appreciate it. How can the listeners get a hold of you? And I think you got an upcoming panfish class as well, right?
I do, yeah. We still have some room in Panfish School, which is coming up on August 19th. And all the details there are at tightlines208.com. Just click on the classes. You can see all the things that we offer. We're now up to 10 different classes that you can sign up for. But the open one right now that has a set date and all that is Panfish School. We're going to be talking all things crappie, perch, bluegill, a couple other fun little species in there as well. So how to catch them, how to prepare them since they're such a popular eating fish, how to find schools, how to locate and learn behaviors. And it's really beneficial and a lot of fun if panfish are something that's interesting to you, or if you're wanting to get more into that game, because panfishing I find is one of those things that you're either not very good at it or you're really good at it, because you kind of get things dialed in on this is where crappie, this is what we do for crappie, or this is what we need to do for perch. And it varies a little bit from place to place, but I find that a lot of those things are kind of universal and will transfer to fisheries all over the states and help you, fill up some nice stringers with those good eating panfish.
And we've talked about it before, but to me, pan fishing on an ultralight rod is just as much as fun fishing for largemouth bass, because you can get just as much of a fight and sometimes even more. So I love pan fishing with an ultralight. So
yeah.
Well, Jordan, we appreciate you. Again, check out Jordan Rodriguez, Tightlines 208. Also fishing columnist. Jordan, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds good, Jeff. Thanks.
And a reminder, if you are interested in Jordan's pan fishing class, just mention the fact that you heard this on the Southern Idaho Fishing Report and he'll give you a discount. But one last chance for you to sign up to win a free ticket, which might be the last seat in Jordan's class because it's filling up fast. Go to southernidahofishing.com/contest and get signed up today. All right, let's look at that Treasure Valley forecast for the weekend of August 6th. Starting off in Mountain Home, sunset will be around 8:58 p.m. Friday, August 6th, 85 degrees for the high, 59 degrees for the low, partly cloudy, 9% chance of rain with a northwest 19-mile-an-hour wind. Saturday the 7th, 92 degrees for the high, 63 degrees for the low, sunny all day, 0% chance of rain with a west-northwest 7-mile-an-hour wind. Sunday the 8th, 86 degrees for the high, 54 degrees for the low, mostly sunny, 6% chance of rain with a northwest 18-mile-an-hour wind. Over in Boise, the sunset will be around 9:02 p.m. Friday, 86 degrees for the high, 63 degrees for the low, partly cloudy, 9% chance of rain with a west-northwest 13-mile-an-hour wind. Saturday the 7th, 92 degrees for the high, 65 degrees for the low, sunny all day, 0% chance of rain with a westerly 7-mile-an-hour wind. Sunday the 8th, 84 degrees for your high, 54 degrees for your low, mostly sunny with a 13% chance of rain and a northwest 14-mile-an-hour wind. Those reservoir levels and boat ramp information. Anderson Ranch actually up just a touch, 45% full with an elevation of 4137. All boat ramps are open except Deer Creek and Pine. Arrow Rock is 17% full with an elevation of 3108. The high ramp is closed, but the low ramp is open. Lucky Peak is down to 75% full with an elevation of 3,029. All boat ramps are open except the following: Roby Creek, Max Creek, and Barclay Bay. Lake Lowell is down a little bit this week, 55% full with an elevation of 2522. All ramps are still currently opening. A little bit of stocking in the Treasure Valley from Fish and Game. Featherville Dredge Pond will have about 1,000 rainbow. And then two rivers, the North Fork of the Boise and the South Fork of the Payette, will each get about 1,750 rainbow trout. The only fishing tournament in the entire southern Idaho this weekend will be August 7th. The Kayak Fishing Northwest will be at the Black Canyon Reservoir using the Black Canyon Park and the Emmett City Park. All right, listener, I have a great guest joining us this week from Fish and Game, and you have an opportunity to give your opinions and your thoughts on some upcoming rules that will be coming in the 2022-2024 rule book. Joining us from the Idaho Fish and Game, the Sport Fishing Program Coordinator, Martin Koenig. Martin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Jeff. Thanks for the invite.
Oh, absolutely. We always love to have Fish and Game on here. We try to educate our listener and the angler, whether they're first time on the water or they've been doing it for many decades.
Sounds great.
So let's talk a little bit. I read your article that you guys had posted just recently about wanting angler input on proposed changes. So talk a little bit about that, and why does Fish and Game reach out to anglers in Idaho?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. You are correct. We are really looking forward to hearing from anglers all across Idaho and getting some input on proposed changes to the fishing rules coming up. As many of your listeners may know, or maybe not if they're new to Idaho, Idaho's fishing regulation booklet comes out it's typically on a 3-year cycle.
Right.
You know, we used to be on an annual cycle. Then we switched to a 2-year cycle. And now that has worked so well, we actually adopted a 3-year cycle. And so right now we're in the last year of our current 3-year cycle, which was from 2019 to 2021. So that means we're in the middle of getting ready for setting the fishing seasons and rules for the next 3-year cycle that's going to start in January of 2022. And that whole process takes about a year to complete, and there's a lot of steps we go through during that process. But one of the big important steps that we go through is getting public input, and collecting public input on those potential changes to the fishing seasons and rules it's just so hugely important that we try to do our best to provide the kind of fishing that anglers want. And managing fisheries for everyone is challenging. There's lots of different species. There's lots of different types of anglers who have different preferences on what kind of experience they're looking for. So we try to collect input from anglers to help us make the best decisions to manage Idaho's fisheries for everyone. And so right now, we are in the process we have some proposed rule changes coming in front of the commission this November. And at this point in the game, we're trying to go out for comment on those potential rule changes and to see what preferences or which options on those proposed changes anglers prefer.
So there's a specific set of rules or guidelines that you're looking for input on then, correct?
That's correct, yes. Each of and they're broken down similar to our fishing rule book, where we have rules that are assigned to these various kind of geographic regions across the state.
Sure.
We divide up Idaho into these different administrative regions, and it just makes it's an easy way to organize our fishing rule book according to what part of the state you're in, whether you're in the Panhandle region or the Southwest. And so if you go to our website under the public comment, you're going to see a landing page for the 2022 to 2024 rules public comment process for fishing. And each of the proposals are grouped according to those regions. So you can go to the Panhandle region and check out all of the potential rule changes there. You could go to the Southeast region and check out all of the rule changes there. So we encourage everybody to comment on all of them, comment on just the ones that interest you. It's up to them as to how involved they want to be, but all of the proposed changes are there and they're open for everyone to come and express their preference. So you'll see basically they're organized it's pretty simple. You go to the region of your interest. Let's say you go into the Panhandle region, for example, and you're going to see a proposal about changing the river boundary definition on the Pend Oreille River. And then it's going to give you a description of what the proposed change is and some background information to instruct folks as to why we're proposing this change, some background rationale information. And then there's like a multiple choice question or two associated with those changes for people to say, yeah, keep the boundary, no, keep the current boundary, or I don't really have an opinion. And then you can submit those comments just by clicking the submit button, and then you can go back to any of the other regions as well and comment on other proposals.
Okay, cool. Now I'm curious. I'm new-ish to Idaho. I've been here for 7 years. And so I also had to learn a lot of different things when I came here, which was one of the reasons why I started this podcast, because I wanted to help those that maybe not know as much. Is this the first time that Fish and Game has reached out to the public for input?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jeff. This is not a new process. As we go through a similar process every time we update our regulations booklet. However, it is on a 3-year cycle, and so it might seem new because we typically only do it once every 3 years for our general statewide seasons and bag limits. But in fact, this current public comment period is our second big push just this year to collect input right now. You might recall back in March and April, we did a whole round of public input for what we called our scoping process. And that was the first step where we ask anglers for potential ideas on what rule changes they'd like to see. Of course, COVID made things a bit different this year. So instead of our usual in-person open houses where, we would host people in person at our various offices and have in-person conversations, that process was mostly a virtual process where we had multiple open house meetings for each of our regional offices. I think that was late March, early April, as well as press releases and email invitations. And then we had a series of really similar online survey forms where anglers could come and share their input on potential ideas that they wanted to submit. And man, we heard from tons and tons of anglers back in spring and collected thousands of great comments. And so after that first round of input during that scoping process, then our fish management staff, they go through all of those thousands of comments. And from those comments, we then develop some candidate ideas that become these proposed changes. And those are brought to the Fish and Game Commission meeting, typically in May. And after the commission looks over those potential changes, they give us the green light to then go back out to the public and collect input on those proposed changes that we distilled down from all of the scoping comments that we got. And that's pretty much, and that's the spot in the process where we are now.
Okay.
We used all of our previous scoping input and we developed some candidate proposed changes. And now we're collecting public input on those proposed changes to see which options anglers prefer. In the past, back in our previous rule book, new changes that went into effect in 2019, some examples of similar changes that we're looking at now, things that went into effect on our previous rule cycle might have been like, the bass rule changes that we saw in our salmon and steelhead waters. We saw more lake trout harvest options open up for Upper Priest Lake. We were able to provide the first burbot fishery in the Panhandle region in decades, and like Silver Creek was a big one. We extended the winter fishing season on Silver Creek from February all the way through March to allow for more catch and release opportunity in the winter, and make it consistent with the Big Wood and the South Fork Boise. So those are like some examples that were like a direct result of this process, and so we're now basically going through the same thing again, getting ready for 2022.
Okay. Now, I raised 4 children, and I know that if I were to ask them what rules they would like to have in play, it would be video games till 2 a.m. and pizza every night for dinner. So, right?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah. So there's a balance, right? There's a balance that I think you guys have to find as to what needs and wants of anglers versus what a healthy fishery is, right? Because this isn't, while the rule book is for 3 years, you're looking at, 100 years down the road of what do anglers 100 years down the road need when you're proposing these rules. So how do you guys balance that?
Yeah, that's a really great question, and it sheds some light on the challenges that Fish and Game faces when we're making these fisheries management decisions. Thankfully, in most cases, we don't have to worry about managing fisheries 100 years down the road. But because most fish just simply don't live that long.
Right.
But in some cases, we're actually doing that. We're making decisions on sturgeon stocking and conservation management, and modeling sturgeon populations that we don't expect to change until 2050 and 2060, just because sturgeon live so long and they grow so slowly. So that's like one of the only cases where we are worried about what it's going to look like 100 years from now. But yeah, you bring up a great point, and balance is a huge challenge that fisheries managers face, and it probably comes down to a lot of different things, because we have to balance what anglers want with a lot of other factors, many of which that are not in our control. For example, everybody wants to see big largemouth bass, but a lot of our fisheries management decisions kind of have to be made within the context of like what's biologically possible to actually produce in some of our waters. And
Sure.
we need to keep in mind what's realistic for the habitat that we have, and we simply can't grow 10-pound largemouth all over the state like Florida can, because we have a much slower growing season, and we don't have huge populations of like forage fish that to feed bass and accelerate their growth. And it just takes really long for us to grow big bass. A 12-inch bass takes us 5 years in most places in Idaho, where it might take 2 or 3 in some of our southern states. And so, everybody would love to see huge bass, but it's simply just a matter of like biological productivity that in some places it's just not realistic what our lakes can actually produce. Even in Dorshak, where Dorshak Reservoir, where we have some tremendous smallmouth fisheries, even those smallmouth fisheries and those state record fish are only produced when conditions are absolutely perfect. When we have really good strong water years, habitat is good, and we have strong kokanee populations that support those super fast growth rates to make big bass. But even in Dorshak, which is like nationally renowned smallmouth fishery, it doesn't happen every year. So that there's a lot of serendipity to growing big fish oftentimes. The other thing we have to balance too, that's often out of our control, is water management. It's really hard to provide fisheries that are consistent in reservoirs that are intended for irrigation and agriculture. Magic Reservoir, Mountain Home Reservoir, Mormon Reservoir. These are places that could potentially grow trout, but it's just really hard to grow fish that take 2, 3, 4, 5 years to reach large sizes, when we simply can't keep those fish over the summer if the reservoirs are getting drained out every year. And the same is true for drought as well. So there's a lot of challenges that are out of our hands in terms of like water management and just biological potential. And in some cases too, we have conservation goals that are not necessarily compatible with the certain types of fisheries that some anglers want. For example, we have responsibilities to manage for, native trout species like Yellowstone cutthroat and West Slope cutthroat that have been petitioned for listing under the Endangered Species Act in the years past. And so, we want to make sure that the state of Idaho stays in control of our fisheries management as best as possible. And yeah, smallmouth bass on top of cutthroat is going to be a bad combination, and so there's certain cases where we just have to manage fisheries expectations and needs, or preferences of anglers with some broader overarching conservation goals, and they're not always compatible. And so, yeah, we try to listen to everybody. We often get criticism from anglers that we do not listen because they don't see the kinds of changes that they're requesting, and that is unfortunate, but it's not because we're not listening. We take that part very, very seriously, but people should not get discouraged because they don't see the kind of changes they're requesting and confuse that with us, with Fish and Game not listening, because
Right.
we do take that very, very seriously.
This is your chance, angler and listener to the Southern Idaho Fishing Report. This is your chance. You can chime in. And I think you're taking comments until 11 o'clock on Sunday, August the 29th, if I read that correctly. Martin, where can concerned citizens go to give their input?
Yeah, absolutely. They should stop by the Idaho Department of Fish and Game website. And right there on it's idfg.idaho.gov. And they should scroll over to the right side where it says public comment. And right there, they can see all of the surveys and comment opportunities by each region. And they should just go ahead and click on there to view the proposals. And then they can check out all the proposals, learn about the rationale for each one, and then answer a couple of the survey questions to show their preference for which of those proposed changes and which options they like.
Awesome. Again, this is Martin Koenig, Sport Fishing Program Coordinator for Idaho Fish and Game. We do thank you for your time today. We do have links to the Idaho Fish and Game on our website, southernidahofishing.com. So make sure that you check those out. And Idaho Fish and Game does a lot of good things for us. Martin, we appreciate you joining us, and we hope you have a great weekend. And I hope you get a lot of input on this.
Thanks, Jeff. It's been a great opportunity, and really appreciate the invite.
Awesome. Well, we thank you, and we'll talk to you next time. Make sure you visit us at southernidahofishing.com. Here you can find the links to all the information we provide you here. You can also contact us through the site. Let's get in that pickup truck and head up 55 north to Cascade. Sunset there will be 9:03 this weekend, Friday, August the 6th. 77 degrees for the high, 51 degrees for the low. Keep an eye out for morning thunderstorms, a 36% chance of rain with an 8-mile-an-hour westerly wind. Saturday, 81 degrees for the high, 54 degrees for your low, sunny. 3% chance of rain with a south-southwest 10-mile-an-hour wind. Sunday, the 8th, 73 degrees for your high, 43 degrees for the low. Ooh, that's chilly. Mostly sunny, 15% chance of rain with a west-southwest 10-mile-an-hour wind. Your reservoir level and boat ramps, not much has changed up in that area. Cascade is around 69% full with an elevation of 4820. All ramps except French Creek and Buttercup are open. The Siskra is at its limit, so be careful if you use that one. Deadwood, 56% full with an elevation of 5309. Cozy Cove ramp is open. And again, adding Man Creek in, this is our second week now. 36% full, it is down a little bit. Elevation of 2858. However, both the south end and north ramps are open. There were no stocking or fishing tournaments reported for the Cascade area. All right, it is time once again for one of my favorite new people that I've gotten to know since doing this podcast. Kyle Sandy from Deadwood Outfitters joins us. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. You know, the weather's kind of leveled off, and so it's gotten kind of nice. I mean, still warm, but we're starting to get some rain, so that's good, which we desperately need more of. But I'm doing well.
Oh yeah.
All right, Kyle, what you got for us this week, sir?
You know, hey, I've gotten a few questions in the past of, some people struggling to catch kokanee or anything like that, even just any broad fishing. I mean, it goes for everything. And people were to ask, what do I look for in a guide? And, there's actually quite a few things that you can look for into a guide. For me, it's how the experience is. Are they all set up for everything? Do they have a good attitude towards people? And a lot of these big guides, they've been on shows, TV shows. They're sponsored by bait companies, and these bait companies come up on their boat, and you can actually see how somebody is just by watching them on your YouTube channel and all that other stuff. I mean, there's some people that I see out there that are, you just know it's turned into a job for them. And I never, if it ever comes to the point like that to me, I just won't do it anymore. I want to feel people to feel my energy of how excited I am for, them to be catching a fish. And, especially with these kids, I guide on Cascade as well. And we see, 6-pound trout, and just watching a 10-year-old kid light up that's what makes the whole job. I mean, that just completes me. And, some of these guys, they're yelling at people, and they really don't teach you show you the real experience of the fishing trip, and I really look for that
Right.
in people. It's just, it really comes down to, are they happy to be there? And you would really see, you'll see it in reviews also, but a lot of times a lot of these big guides up here, not Idaho particularly, but Oregon, Washington, all that stuff. I mean, they're all over the place. You'll see by their attitude and and how they're set up. I just did a guided trip here on Deadwood on last Thursday, and the guy said, I have never seen such a setup boat in my life. He goes, I've been on a lot of guided trips. And I said, well, my goal is to make the experience the best and give you the best chance at catching a fish. And that, honestly, that's my motto. I mean, I'm not the guy that goes, hey, fishing sucks, but I'm gonna take your money anyways. If I think, man, the fishing's really poor, you should hit me up in a couple of weeks. I'm the kind of guy like that. If there's a guy that just feels like I'm just gonna take your money, I mean, just do your shopping around. And I mean, there's some really good guys out there, really good guys. And they're all good guys, but there's some guys that are better than others.
It's tough. So a few years ago, I'm originally from North Carolina, and a few years ago, took my wife, who we'd been married, I think 3 years at the time. And I said, hey, I want to take you fishing off the Outer Banks of North Carolina. I was very excited about it. I grew up fishing in the Sound there, 2 miles out, and grew up doing that. I wanted my wife to get that experience. So I did my research and I found this guide. He had a lot of good reviews. And I told him, I said, we want to go out. We want to go out fishing. I don't want to be in the bay in the Sound. I want to go out. And he goes, oh, no problem. And so we get there, and I booked like an $800 full day excursion. And we get there and the guy goes, oh, I forgot you wanted to go out. And I was just like, oh, you got to be kidding me. And we hardly caught anything. And it was a really bad experience. And we caught a few things, but, my wife caught them bass. We were fishing where one of the fresh water was coming, and she caught a bass. I thought, great. We've come to North Carolina to catch a bass. Yeah. We could have stayed home in Idaho and done that. But I mean, I guess sometimes you just, you really just you're taking a chance, especially if you're going far away. If it's a little bit closer to home, you can do a little more research, but I guess it's a little tougher. You have to trust those reviews that you read online.
Yeah, and a lot of some people, I've been very fortunate, but some people, you got to understand it is fishing. If it was called catching, these guys would charge for it. But the big point of it is the experience. Did you come out having a great experience? Did you come out having some more knowledge than you did before you got on the boat? That is my number one motto.
Again, this is what you do for a living. So how can folks book a trip with you, Kyle?
No, you can call me at 208-936-5180.
Outstanding. Kyle Sandy, Deadwood Outfitters, with his hot tip of the week. Not about Koening, but about the guides, and it's always good to know. Kyle, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Hey, you want to be part of the show? Email us with questions or your fishing report from your last trip. You can email us at southernidaho.fr@gmail.com or send us a picture of that catch at myfish@southernidaho.fishing.com. Another way to be part of the show, ask some questions. Send viewer questions to questions@southernidaho.fishing.com. All right, one more trip over to the Snake River Reservoir area. Sunset there will be around 9:08 Mountain Time, 8:08 Pacific. On Friday, 89 degrees for your high, 62 degrees for the low. Mostly sunny, a 10% chance of rain with a west-southwest 7-mile-an-hour wind. Saturday the 7th, 93 degrees for your high, 62 degrees for the low. Sunny, 2% chance of rain with a south-southwest 9-mile-an-hour wind. And Sunday, 81 degrees for the high, 52 degrees for the low. Partly cloudy, 24% chance of rain with a west-northwest 8-mile-an-hour wind. There were no stocking or fishing tournaments reported for the Snake River Reservoir area. You can find us on Facebook groups, or you can follow us on Twitter at Idaho_report. It is time for the moon phase report. The new moon is on August the 8th. The first quarter will be August the 15th. Perigee will be August 17th, and apogee will be August 29th. Now, if you didn't tune in last week, you're saying, what is perigee and apogee? So, as I explained last week, the moon's orbit around the Earth is obviously it's not round, but it's elliptical. And its most distant point, apogee, it's about 252,000 miles away. Its closest point, perigee, the moon is about 233 miles away. Now, there are theorists that feel that the moon's greater gravitational pull, as much as 20% during the perigee positions, means that there is even better fishing potential during this time. So when the moon's closest, it's also called a supermoon due to its additional influence on tides. All right, so explaining that, 2 weekends ago, it was an A+. Last weekend, it was not forecasted to be great, although I did see some folks had some success. Again, these reports are just that. It's a forecast. Doesn't mean you won't catch fish or you will catch fish. But this weekend, I think it's going to be a decent weekend. In fact, so decent, I plan on getting the boat out and taking some friends out. Got a young man that wants to go fishing, so we're getting him out this weekend. We'll be between 1 and 3 a.m. overnight, 1 and 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and then your evening peak times are going to be between 8 and 9 p.m. Well, we have come to the end of another show. What a show it has been. Jordan Rodriguez from Tightlines 208, Kyle Sandy from the Deadwood Outfitters, and of course, Martin Koenig from Idaho Fish and Game. I just briefly want to kind of mention that I actually had about a 30-minute conversation with Martin after we did the interview, and he's super excited about fishing in Idaho. Wanted me to remind our listeners that, if you're going somewhere new and you want to find out some information on it, you can go to Idaho Fish and Game to their fishing planner, and there's a lot of good tools on there. I've used that in the past when I'm going to new bodies of water. So go check that out, the fishing planner at Idaho Fish and Game. Okay, first of all, you may have seen it in the introduction. We are now available on YouTube. It's Southern Idaho Fishing Report on YouTube. Don't expect anything fancy, but we're going to have this available for you on YouTube. If that's your favorite medium, you'll be able to listen to it and maybe even see some pictures that we post on there along the way. So check that out starting this week. I kind of had a memory came up in my Facebook page about 5 years ago. We had bought a canoe and we wanted something a little bit bigger. I bought this 12-foot Valco, got it from my buddy Jeff out at J&H Marine. Many of you probably know him, great guy. But anyway, got this Valco. This thing was in bad shape. It was on a Harbor Freight trailer. Sanded it down, repainted it, decked it out, and it really turned out nice. I'll actually post some pictures on the website, and you should be, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll be seeing those pictures right now of the before and after of what that little Valco looks like. So that's kind of a fun memory that I had that popped up from about 5 years ago, and we got a lot of good use out of that. My wife and myself, and then our dogs have been in there as well too. So that's a fun little memory. I mentioned heading out this weekend. Got a young man that lives next door to us and been promising to take him fishing. It just hasn't really worked out, but we're going this weekend. So I'm getting him out this weekend. Going to introduce him to fishing. Of course, his mom and his sister are coming as well too. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I think Saturday's going to be a great day for fishing. Didn't get a chance to go last weekend. Like I said, I gave it an F and I stayed home. So it was okay in Boise, but CJ Strike was pretty stormy last weekend. All right. What about this weekend? You're asking, Jeff. Well, this weekend, I'm going to give it a B to an A, and that depends on which day you go. I would say Friday, if you're going to go, it'd probably be about a B. Sunday, be a B+. I think Saturday's going to be an A day. I think it's going to be a good day to go fishing, hit those peak times later in the afternoon, and you should do fairly well with the fishing this weekend. So there it is, between a B and an A, and giving Saturday the A for that. So I thank you once again, listener, for tuning in each and every week. This show continues to grow, and we're super excited about it. Like I said, you'll be able to find us on YouTube starting this weekend. Nothing fancy with it yet. We're not actually recording this, but we're putting this available on YouTube. So if that's your medium you want to listen to, we have some great guests that join us each and every week. Jordan Rodriguez, Tightlines 208. Don't forget to get signed up for his pan fishing school class. Kyle Sandy, Deadwood Outfitters. Book your next guide trip with him. And of course, Martin Koenig from Idaho Fish and Game. And of course, you listener, could not do it without you. Thank you for your continued support. I'm Jeff Cullers, and I'll see you on the water. We would like to thank you for listening to the Southern Idaho Fishing Report, and would like to remind you to visit our website, southernidahofishing.com. or find us on Facebook or on Twitter. Thanks to our guests and experts, as well as you, our listener, for making the show possible. This has been an Old Man Studios production. Join us next week for another episode of the Southern Idaho Fishing Report.